Hey guys, welcome back to Dasker Discusses. Well, it's been a while since I've actually discussed some sort of thing other than video games and doing streaming, so I thought why not go with something a bit controversial and start a few arguments with friends, put it that way, if they're going to jump online, that is. And I'm talking about looking at Friends versus Seinfeld. Now, I'm a fan of both. Grew up watching both as well, and this is a really interesting topic because you can like both, but the problem is that the fans on both sides tend to have their opinions about things and tend to have opinions about the actual characters and the storylines, etc. So I'm going to break it down and we'll see how we go from there, right? So Friends versus Seinfeld. Let's see what we can do with that. So just bear with me, guys. Now, I do have some details first. So firstly, looking at Seinfeld, just looking at the IMDb page here, as you can see. Started off in when? Let's have a look. Scrolling down, 1989 was the first one. We've got 9 seasons. Created Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld. Now, obviously I'm a huge Larry David fan with Curb Your Enthusiasm. And we're not going to get into that, whether that's better than Seinfeld, because we're talking about Friends and Seinfeld. So 1989 is where it all began, and 1998 is where it all ended. Interesting. Very interesting. So, 173 episodes. Friends, let's look at that. Friends, looking at 1994 to 2004, 235 episodes, 10 seasons. So, 94 to 2004, Seinfeld, 89 to 98. So, Friends did finish obviously more recent, right? So, but we're not looking at that. We're just looking at the IMDb page. 8.8 for Seinfeld, 8.9 for Friends. Does that mean anything? Well, whatever. 823,000 people voted for Friends there, 254,000. I don't really care about that. Visible Studios, Seinfeld for the win. Well, again, guys, it's difficult to... Thanks, Visible. We shall see. So, let's keep going, shall we? Now, what I've done is, I've found a couple of websites where, like, it's got what Seinfeld did better than Friends, what Friends did better than Seinfeld, gone through some minor characters for both the top episodes, and then I'll give my opinion at the end as well. But let's just have a look at this, shall we? Now, what we've got here on this website is by Screen Rant, which is a not bad website. 10 things Seinfeld did better than Friends. So, let's have a look. Characters. Alright, this could be controversial. Friends fans hate Seinfeld fans. They see him as stuffy comedy snobs. So before we delve into that, yep. Now, it's important to note there is a couple of things Friends did better than Seinfeld too. It's difficult to create and perform characters that are as lovable as those in the ensemble of Friends, and Friends series finale is certainly a stronger conclusion than Seinfeld's. However, having said that, the characters in Friends are just walking, talking joke books, whereas the characters in Seinfeld are real people, and the humor is drawn from that. Everything they say is funny because it's true characterization, which is funny in itself. Now, I really like this line here. Kramer is a funny character. He is. Kramer is. Carl Kramer, the ass man. Whereas Ross is a character who says funny things. Rachel and Monica could swap most of their lines and no one would be able to tell. You couldn't do that with Jerry and George. 100% agree with that. Looking at the cast list, okay, just quickly. Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, what that article just said is that they could swap their lines and no one would tell. In a way, yes. But in a way, Rachel's got her own story with Ross, and Monica's got her own story with Chandler as well, and with Magnum P.I., Tom Skerritt, what's his name? That guy, Magnum P.I. And Kramer is a funny character compared to someone like Ross, who, as it said, says funny things. Now, Kramer's humor is different to Chandler's humor. Obviously, Chandler has got some great humor, sarcastic humor. What I would say is that you could possibly put Phoebe Buffay's character as the Kramer of Friends in a way. However, the thing is with that is that Kramer's got like a lot of physical humor, whereas Phoebe, I just don't find I mean, at times she's funny, but I don't find her that hilarious like everyone does. Yes, we've got Smelly Cat, etc. Yes, we've got she thinks her mum is the cat. It's just kind of that humor just doesn't do it for me. Now, are you probably thinking, well, it's only because you're biased because you're probably more of a Seinfeld fan? No, I'm looking at this from a different lens. I'm taking off the whole loving Larry David and Seinfeld, or growing up watching Seinfeld more. We're looking at it just from what they're saying here. And what they say here about what Seinfeld did better, yeah, Kramer is a funny character, whereas Ross just says funny things. Yeah, anyway, we'll move on to that. 9 out of 10, situations. So, situations are pretty important in situational comedy. It's a sitcom, yeah? Because as the name suggests, that's where the comedy comes from. And sitcoms tend to be funnier if the situation feels relatable, like it could happen in real life. Seinfeld might have been called a show about nothing, but that's only because it focused on the minutiae of real life. Friends had larger-than-life plots about cooking beef into a trifle and accidentally chopping off a toe and having a pet monkey. That's interesting because in a Seinfeld episode, someone does get their toe cut off and Kramer has to put it in a jar, get on a bus and fight a guy. So I'm not going to give it that little point there. It's in both series there, okay? No one can relate to that. The pet monkey thing, I get it, but what people can relate to is struggling to find your car in a giant parking structure, or waiting for a table in a Chinese restaurant, or arguing over who's going to pay at the restaurant with your parents. Yes, I think the situations in Seinfeld are more relatable. Favorite episodes, and we're going to talk about it later, but Chinese restaurant, parking garage, like they just said, things like that can happen to real people at real times. Now, I know Friends has this as well, and you've got all their relationships, etc., all the stuff that happens in that. However, I agree with Screen Rant on this. There's just too many good episodes where our characters are stuck in some sort of situation, and they're basically in one location with the whole thing. There's the parking garage, there's the airport one when they're on the Elaine and Jerry are on the planes, there's the Chinese restaurant. There's a lot, okay? Now, in Friends, I'm not saying there isn't, like, funny situations that they're in, but, again, the one with the beef trifle, it's funny, but it's like, I kind of agree with that. And the pet monkey, and I know that's Ross's job and all that, but, yeah, we'll move on. Let's go through this a bit quick. Utilizing guest stars. Now, they got Courtney Cox there. It's interesting because she was in Seinfeld. Any show that's as popular as Seinfeld or Friends is going to attract A-list talent for guest appearances. However, Seinfeld uses guest stars much more effectively than Friends. By the last couple of seasons of Friends, all of its episodes were relying on big-name guest stars lazily shoving in someone like Brad Pitt to get a reaction. 100%, okay? Anyway, but Seinfeld uses guest stars to play characters like any other. It's safe to say that no one would care about Will if he was played by Brad Pitt. Meanwhile, Seinfeld's close talker is an interesting character, Judge Reinhold or not. Oh, and Marissa Tomei's storyline was fantastic. Her fame and beauty paired with presumably fictional fetish for short, stocky, bald men, etc., etc. Yeah, look, this point that they make on this website, gonna have to agree to some of it to some extent. Like the close talker, Judge Reinhold. I mean, yeah, he's a guest star, but someone like Brad Pitt, yes. It was there in a way because they were dating at the time, Aniston and Brad Pitt. So the audience is going to get that kind of effect where they're like, oh, wow, Brad Pitt's on the show and what was the history behind it? I think it was, if someone could help me out, if you're a Friends fan, is that, he used to be ugly or something like that. So I get that. But in this case, for this website utilizing guest stars, I'm going to say it's a bit of a tie here, so we'll move on. Punchlines. Friends always went for the cheapest laughs. Yep, I reckon, 100%. The writers always took the easiest route by having the characters insult each other, hitting the easiest targets, or say something sarcastic. I find with Friends, they really do push, and it's been an issue now with the media and people talking about it after watching a lot of Friends on Netflix, is that they always go on about, and I've noticed this, about Monica's weight a lot and the flashbacks to the old film of her being really overweight and eating a lot. There's a lot of other things with Chandler's dad who's transgender as well. So those things don't really go down well these days. And they use a lot of that for punchlines. So, however, in Seinfeld, all the jokes serve a story. If there's a punchline, it's there to pay off an earlier setup or tie two story threads together. The humor is smarter and more sophisticated in Seinfeld. That's not to say there isn't room for humor like that in Friends, but it doesn't take much craft or skill or work as the jokes in Seinfeld, which makes them better. Now, the picture they've got there is the soup Nazi, no soup for you. There's so many other punchlines, you know. These pretzels are making me thirsty. The sea was angry that day, my friends. Serenity now. Insanity later. I know there's punchlines in Friends like, how you doing? But, you know, Joey, could you call Joey a character similar to Kramer? I don't think Kramer is that. I'm not saying he's not dumb, but he's played off to be a bit dim-witted at times, okay? That's his character. Kramer, on the other hand, has always got these kind of ideas which kind of go nowhere and or fail spectacularly, which is actually hilarious. But the punchlines from Seinfeld, I think, are more memorable. Tell me some punchlines from Friends that you can remember, apart from Smelly Cat, how you doing? Janice with, oh my god. What else you got? I am trying to think. Anyway, moving on. Punchlines. Done. Dialogue. Well, again, when you've got someone like Larry David who's actually writing this dialogue from seasons 1 to 7, I'm going to have to agree with this. It's got its own distinct dialogue, snappy back and forth among the group with wit and fast pace. 100%. The show's dialogue has rhythm, it's poetic, it's dialogue for dialogue lovers. I love good dialogue, and who doesn't? But there's some people who watch films, and I'm not saying mindless action films, right, or mindless comedies, but you can tell a good comedy by its witty dialogue. So something like Step Brothers, I think, is hilarious and has good dialogue. The Office, the British one, the US one as well. Seinfeld's dialogue is superior to Friends. Why? Because I just think the power of Larry David and Seinfeld writing it is 100% correct in this. The writers of Seinfeld relish the art of beauty of language. That might sound an exaggeration or overcomplication of the use of wordplay, but it's not really. Certainly, compared to Friends, Seinfeld has incredible dialogue. And that goes with this linked with the punchlines. I think that's why Seinfeld wins in terms of dialogue, okay? Because, yes, the punchlines can be funny, you know, how you doing? But apart from that, there is like so many other different ways to go about it. Now, a good example in Seinfeld that they do this is in the episode The Contest. You know what they're talking about, but they don't go out and say it. And that's where just great dialogue, you know, not there's anything wrong with that. You know, let's find out who you are. Another episode, you know, things like that where dialogue's written, where it's not going to offend anyone, and it gets around a topic that's actually controversial for its time in the 90s, and it works perfect. So, but having said that, the dialogue in Seinfeld, I guess you could say from season 7 to 9, the comedy turned physical, gags, all that kind of stuff, and the dialogue may have dropped down a bit. Anyway, acting. So, looking at the list, Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, Matt LeBlanc, Matthew Perry, David Schwimmer. I'm looking at them, and yes, they're all great actors. Both TV shows have great actors. However, when I look at the Seinfeld list, Seinfeld, Jason Alexander, Michael Richards, Julie Louis-Dreyfus, the 4 key characters versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 versus 4. Now, I know this is a bit different to what we're talking about here in terms of acting, but when you've got one female like Elaine who can carry that female presence in the show, her acting does it 100%. She's 100% a better in terms of character and actress than any of the female characters in Friends. I'm going to say it right there because she has to carry 3 other male characters in the show. Now, forgetting about Elaine for a second, Jason Alexander, Julie Louis-Dreyfus, 3 finest comic actors who ever lived and fit into their roles perfectly. And while Jerry Seinfeld might not be a great actor, that's because he's not an actor, but one of the greatest stand-up comics of all time. Seinfeld has pitch-perfect comedic timing on every line. We're not going to talk about Newman. Talk about the main actors here. I agree that Jerry isn't the greatest actor, right? But that's because he's a stand-up comedian. So the weak point in Seinfeld in terms of acting, Nick Kazakis, Seinfeld, GOAT. Yep. Maybe. Haha. So, I'm not saying that looking at the cast of Friends here, I think the strongest actors in Friends are probably Matthew Perry and look, Matthew Perry is probably the most superior character in Friends, and in terms of acting, I think he's up there, right? If you could put Chandler Bing into Seinfeld somehow as a sub character, it would work. Matt LeBlanc, Joey as well. I like Joey, and Matt LeBlanc's acting, he plays that role really well. This is where it gets interesting, and even when teaching acting, right? I'm looking at the characters, and I'm trying not to look at the characters, but Lisa Kudrow, Courtney Cox, they're all great actors. However, when I see those three female leads, and then I think about what Elaine's done, I have to go with Seinfeld with that, and I have to go with the more superior dialogue as well helps that. So, anyway, moving on from that. So I'm going to say that the acting is a lot better. And meanwhile, Jennifer Aniston delivers every Rachel line as if she's surprised, and Matthew Perry delivers all Chandler's jokes with the same arrogant smirk. It's not really acting in the true sense. Don't know if I agree to that, but I do agree with Rachel always surprised every time she says something or whatever. And Monica, what's her name? Courtney Cox overacting at times, and Phoebe playing that ditzy kind of role. I know that's her role as a character, but acting the way they carry themselves as actors and actresses, nah. Got to go with Seinfeld on that. Re-Watchability. Now this is probably a controversial one. Seinfeld episodes are so dense and complex and packed with little jokes and moments and details that they stand dozens upon dozens of rewatches. They never get old. It's one of the very few shows where there is really unequivocally bad episode. There are some weak spots, and there was a general decline in quality after Larry David left at the end of season 7. Yes, I agree with that. But every episode has plenty of funny moments and a strong plot. Meanwhile, there are only about 10 episodes of Friends that would stand at many rewatches. The rest get old after a couple of viewings. Whoa, this is controversial because I still know plenty of friends that watch Friends. Friends that watch Friends. I kind of disagree because, Friends, you can chuck it on Netflix, you can chuck on any episode, you can watch them, yeah. But in a way, I do agree that the Seinfeld episodes are more dense with more in-jokes and little things that you can laugh about after watching it multiple times, right? Just think of the episode with I'm O'Brien, with the limo and the the neo-Nazi speech thing, like that episode there, and like you got Kramer and Elaine, their own little story happening and the jokes happening. I just think that definitely rewatchability. I can chuck on a Seinfeld episode, whatever it is. I know that after season 7, it's got its fans, and some people don't agree with that aspect here, that it did get weaker. I kind of do agree. There was a lot of episodes that were just very meh to me. But anyway, so rewatchability, I think, it's an interesting one because I think they're both rewatchable. Storytelling, here we go. The writers of Seinfeld had much more respect and talent for the craft of telling a story than the writers of Friends. Seinfeld episodes are tightly plotted and dovetail their different storylines together, weaving in and out of one another. It's really something. The plotting of Friends, however, is just one generic lazy sitcom. That's a bit harsh for Friends. A typical Friends episode goes like this. This happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. Oh, and this happens to Joey, the end. Meanwhile, a typical Seinfeld goes like this. This happens because that happened, but then this happens, and then this and that coverage in a way that pays off. Yeah, I kind of agree with that, but I think maybe that's what Friends is going for, because we'll probably get to it when we get to the 10 things that Friends did better, is that the storylines in Friends don't just involve comedy. There's a lot of romance and relationships involved in that. So, bit different. I think the storyline, even though they say it's about nothing, every episode is unique in its own right, apart from the ones that are part 1, part 2. But there's just they've both got very good storytelling. So I'm going to leave that with both there. All right. All right. I'm going to skip supporting characters because you can't. I can't go through it. But supporting characters. There are a single supporting character in Friends you can say you liked. I'm not going to skip it. We'll go through it. Anyway, those who's returned to the show you really celebrated. The few candidates like Janice become unbearable and overused by the end of the series. Meanwhile, Seinfeld is a long list. You got Newman, Steinbrenner, Peterman, Jerry's parents, George's parents, Kenny Banya, Jackie Charles, David Putty. All those characters were brilliantly drawn. Yeah, I agree with that. But we'll keep the minor characters for later, shall we? Targeting jokes. In Seinfeld, it's like Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The characters are terrible, despicable people. But that's the joke. Yes, I agree with that. They are not nice people in a way in Seinfeld. And that's why in the last season of Seinfeld, even though a lot of people didn't like that episode, it kind of made sense. They all went to court about, they didn't, what was it called? They didn't help that guy who was getting mugged. The Good Samaritan law, right? So that kind of all comes back to them because they get, put in jail for what they did. And I agree with that. When Elaine stops to get juji fruits before going to see her boyfriend in hospital, the jokes are all at the expense of her doing something awful. Yes. However, that's not what Friends does. 100%. When Chandler's transgender father is the butt of every joke in Friends, the joke isn't at the expense of transphobic people for their outrageous ignorance. It's simply at the expense of the transgender character for being transgender, which isn't very funny. Both Friends and Seinfeld have mean-spirited humor, but Seinfeld's much better at aiming it at the right targets. Yes, I agree with that. I can't remember Chandler's transgender dad in it, but all I remember is every time they do mention it, like Chandler's not happy, obviously, with that. Like you can see it in his face. The audience laughs. Remember, this is a different audience back in the 90s as well. I think with the jokes in Friends, the targeting jokes, especially the ones with Monica's character, with her weight, guilty bystander, yeah. With her weight is where I think even, I don't understand, there's movies like Shallow Hal that are really, looking now, they're inappropriate, and I think in a way those jokes directed at her and the way even Monica reacts to her weight as well, and the way the other characters react to it is just a bit wrong. But yeah, that's my opinion anyway. We're here to discuss, guys. That's it. Next. 10 things Friends did better than Seinfeld. So we just looked at what Seinfeld did better than Friends. Now we'll look at 10 things Friends did better than Seinfeld. So, 10. Female perspective. Seinfeld's main focus was, of course, Jerry. Most of these best episodes revolved around him and his male friends. Alright, I'll give it that. Monica and Rachel and Phoebe gave Friends the edge it needed in female perspective and female comedy. By the way, guys, let me know if you're watching. If you've got any questions or whatever, if you've got any input, let me know. Not only do you follow the men of the show, but you get to follow the stories of each female character and see their arcs as the season go by. Each girl is a strong, witty, and the kind of life that any young woman living in New York City will want at the time. Oh, yeah. Elaine is a great character, but she's no match for the combined brilliance of Monica, Rachel, and Phoebe. Nah. I'm not going to go with that. Hang on one sec, guys. Is there an issue with my stream? Hang on, I'm just checking. I'm not going to go with that because I just think that by saying that Phoebe, Rachel, and Monica end up like they're stronger characters than Elaine. I just don't agree with that, but I do agree with the fact that it had a better female perspective. All right. Jerry, Chandler, Kramer, Ross, Elaine, Phoebe, George, Joey. Nah, I actually, I don't actually agree with that. Jerry being Chandler, yeah, okay, I'll give you that. Kramer being Ross, maybe in some ways, but Kramer's more superior and funnier, like I said earlier. Elaine, Phoebe, definitely not. I don't think either one of these three characters is like Elaine at all. Again, that's probably because of the storylines and the way they're written. Nah, no way. And then George being Joey. George is a complex character and it's got so much depth to him. Whereas Joey, yes, I know he's the actor and this and that, and blah. There's some funny. No Rachel in Seinfeld. Nobody cares about Monica. Seinfeld needed a Rachel. Seinfeld did need a Rachel kind of character, but remember that we had Elaine, who I think took the best of these three, and if anything, like, Elaine's not like Phoebe at all. Not that I said that she is, but I just think that the way Elaine is written is much stronger than any of these three characters from Friends. Monica and her struggles as she goes through with Chandler, I get that. Rachel and all the stuff with Ross, there's not much of this relationship stuff in Seinfeld, so it's a bit different. It's a different show. Moving on. Plot. Really? Essentially, Seinfeld was strictly comedy. Yes, we agree with that. While the sitcom did not touch upon sensitive topics, the characters themselves seldom took the situation too seriously. People watching both shows as they aired in real time couldn't wait to see what would happen between Ross and Rachel, but not so about what George was up to. Alright, while Seinfeld was great for a reliable laugh, it just did not seek to include the type of drama capable of emotionally gripping audiences like Friends. Alright, I give it that. I give it that the plot in Friends and the way they go about having all the relationship stuff and the drama and who's going out with who, etc. Yeah, definitely would go with that. That basically the plot is is more aimed towards like a kind of different kind of audience, obviously. So, and with all the things about relationships, which I mentioned, okay, in a way, Seinfeld is better for the laughs, whereas Friends has the laughs as well, but also has the drama involved in it. Okay. Guys, if my stream is coming out a bit blurred, let me know or something like that, because I can't really do anything about it. Let me just check. Just checking something. So, emotional attachment to characters. We could pretty much, you could pretty much say that this links to the previous point as well. Each character in Friends has their own story, personality, and quirks. People were still acquainted with the Friends character they most like. When they went through heartbreak, so did the audience. When a character messed up, looking at you, Ross, viewers were irritated with them. It is hard not to be emotionally attached to the characters when the cast really dove deep into bringing those people to life. Alright, look. Yeah, this, along with some of the plot as well, I could see why you could put that emotional attachment to characters. Yes, I'll give this to Friends, but it depends what you're watching it for as well. So, yes, there is an emotional attachment, and people can sit there and cry at the end of an episode or whatever when something happens, but whatever. Anyway, moving on. Romance. Yes, Seinfeld has a ton of relationships, including Elaine and Jerry during the sitcom's earliest years, and George's self-imposed death march towards marriage in season 7. However, they couldn't hold the candle to Ross and Rachel, Chandler, Monica, Phoebe and Mike. Everyone wanted to know the true fate of Ross and Rachel. Yes, everyone wanted to know. And yes, that, spoilers, the last season was pretty good by Friends. The way that all tied together with that whole Hollywood type of ending, whereas Seinfeld went for something different. People had argued over whether or not they were really on a break. Another catchphrase they had. It's really hard not to cry when Chandler and Monica had an emotional proposal in that famous apartment. With every couple on Friends, audiences could find things they could relate to in their own dating lives. So, let me just check something, guys, because it's saying something here. As such, viewers will experience buffering. Alright, cool. So if there's any major issues, guys, let me know, but I can't really do much about the stream. Sorry about that. What can I do? Alright. Romance. We'll give it that. Relatable comedy. This is interesting because the previous article said that it didn't have relatable comedy. Anyway, Seinfeld was without a doubt super comical. It had great one-liners and not one episode ever disappointed in the comedy sector. However, Friends made situations comical in a nuanced way thanks to the 6 main characters. They all said, with what all members are thinking, and improvisation by Matthew Perry as Chandler was enough to carry most episodes. Each character never failed to make you laugh and was typically about situations that everyone has once been a part of. Seinfeld is also quite relatable, but the sitcom focuses more on observational humor. Didn't the article on Screen Rant, the other one, just contradict this about relatable comedy? I don't agree with that. Okay, well, if you've got a whole bunch of friends that, I mean, obviously in your group of friends, everyone's going out with whatever, yeah, in a way, but Chinese restaurant, parking lot, airports, a lot more relatable comedy, I think, in Seinfeld. Now, the last season. The last season of Seinfeld was a touch disappointing and a bit messy, especially the series finale. Yeah, maybe the last season was a bit of a mess. I think the finale, looking back, was not too bad. Friends wrapped up their plot lines and characters' arcs perfectly with the last season. Yes, they did. Nothing felt rushed or unfinished or left unsaid. Ross and Rachel finally got together and found their way back to each other. Chandler and Monica welcomed two new babies, and the rest of the characters were ultimately happy. Each story that the audience had followed for so long had a happy ending, which may not be the most realistic outcome, but it was nonetheless. Yes, in a way, I can't sit here and go, oh, well, it wasn't realistic. Everyone, is a happy ending. In a show like that, it had to have a happy ending. Whereas a show like Seinfeld, when Larry David left, it was going to be a bit more different. A different type of ending. And they went with that ending with having everyone in the court, etc. So, yeah. Alright. Character friendships. There was no duo on Friends that wasn't hilarious in its own way. Rachel and Monica were the type of girlfriends people aspired to be. Okay. The banter between Ross and Phoebe was like no other relationship audiences had ever seen. Yeah, I'll give it that. Ross and Phoebe, because I'm not a big fan of Phoebe either. I get that. He used to question her and be annoyed with her, so I get that. People could relate to their own friendships to the ones of the six friends, and they were all so close to each other that you kind of wish you could just insert yourself right into the group. So you're saying that Jerry and George aren't good friends, even though they went to high school together? Kramer and Jerry. How about Jerry and Elaine? Nah, I think here it just, yeah. I get Rachel and Monica are friends. I get that, but it just seems so plasticky to me, especially the first few seasons of Friends. As it kept going, it got better with terms of character friendships, but the whole thing with Kramer barging in on Jerry all the time, I'm sorry, not giving that to Friends. I'm going to call that a draw there. Quotable moments. How dare you even put this on there for Friends? Between Ross and Rachel being on a break and Phoebe's smelly cat, there are so many moments on Friends that people still quote today. Look, every song Phoebe sang got drilled into the heads of viewers and was hard to not memorize the lines at a painful breakup scene between Ross and Rachel. Each episode had its own hilarious moments to quote. The people were recognized immediately. That's not to say Seinfeld's not quotable, but Friends is on another level. No. I'm sorry, quotable moments. If this is the same article as before in terms of punchlines, then there's more punchlines in Seinfeld than in Friends. How many times are you going to say smelly cat, smelly cat? How many times are you going to say being on a break, how you doing? The ones I actually like in Friends are more so when Gary Oldman's in it and I found the picture on your pat. I actually quote that more than anything else. Being on a break. I'm sorry, but how many times are you going to hear it in like a series? We were on a break. It's like funny, but it's like, no soup for you, the soup Nazi. Come on. You're an anti-dentite. There's so many quotable... Anyway, whatever. There's so many quotable lines from Seinfeld. I'm sorry. Now, this one could win. All right. Catering to a younger audience. Even today in 2019, people are watching Friends between late reruns on Nick at Night and Netflix. Friends has reached a whole new generation. One can still catch episodes of Seinfeld on TV, but it just doesn't relate to new audiences the way Friends does. Seinfeld has the kind of comedy that felt so right for the time period, but Friends created a story that people today are still invested in following to the end. Okay, I get it. Friends is on Netflix, right? Seinfeld is on probably some other streaming thing, and it's on TV sometimes. I get it. Younger audience. As a teacher of like teenagers, I hear a lot of teenagers talking more about Friends than Seinfeld. So it does cater to a younger audience. However, is that good or bad? That's great. Fantastic. Good. Cater to a younger audience. I like Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is got one of the greatest writers and I think most funniest comedic actors when he's just playing himself, Larry David, who you can tell that comedy and is it for an older audience? Possibly, yeah. Do I care that Friends is catered to a younger audience? Good on it. Good on younger people watching Friends. I'll give Friends that it does cater to a younger audience. Good. Go ahead. Take the younger audience. Another point, the family aspect. Friends feels like home to so many fans. That is testimony to how well the show incorporates the theme of family into its storylines. Ross and Monica are such an iconic brother-sister duo. They were quirky, they fought a lot, but at the end of each episode, they loved each other. Yeah, alright. I agree with that. They're good characters. You kind of believe that they're brother and sister, right? Getting to see the flashbacks of them in their parents' home along with young Chandler and Rachel felt very reminiscent of your own personal home videos. Yeah, I give it that. It was nice to know that many of these characters had a connection that went way back and somehow they still loved each other just the same as adults. I give it that. The family aspect of Friends is more emotional and the drama involved and the flashbacks, I get that. However, don't tell me that Ross and Monica's parents are funnier than Frank and Estelle Costanza. Don't tell me that Morty Seinfeld and Jerry's mum are funnier, are not as funny as like a fun. No, don't tell me that the Friends parents and the Friends family. Yes, it's more emotional and dramatic, but yeah, they do hit the family aspect a bit better in Friends. So we'll give it that. All right. So now that we've gone through the 10 best things that Seinfeld and that Friends did. Sorry, one sec. Let's look at the 15 minor characters who stole the show every time compared to Friends. Alright, so we've been going for what? How long? Let's have a look. 37 minutes. Let's keep going. 15 minor Seinfeld characters stole the show every time. Uncle Leo. Alright, Uncle Leo is funny. Definitely go with that. Leo's a bit of a swindler, cheated on his sister, Helena the horse racing. Uncle Leo says hello to the number 15 spot on the list. Alright, I give it that. Uncle Leo's a good character. He's annoying, but he's pretty funny. You can relate because if you run into someone, a family member on the street, there is someone in your family who's like Uncle Leo and just doesn't stop talking and bother you. Alright, Susan Ross. She was a good character and they got rid of her, which is a shame, but I don't find her to be one of the strongest minor characters in Seinfeld. She's on this list though, but she is believable to be George's wife and he proposes to her and then Kramer vomits on her as well. They burn down their father's cabin. You know what? In a way, she is a good minor character, so we'll put her in there 100%. George begins to feel trapped and then she dies from licking the envelopes, which I think was a really weird kind of storyline in Seinfeld, but hey, whatever. Moving on. Kenny Bania. The best, Jerry. The best. Another stand-up comedian. Again, good one-liners and good lines by a character like this where you still say that's gold or that's the best. Definitely Kenny Bania deserves to be on this list, right? Now, I'm sure Friends has minor characters too. Now, I just noticed that my top 10 Friends minor characters, I've got 10, whereas here there's 15. So we'll scroll through. Babu Bhatt, I wouldn't put him on this list. He's funny, but yeah, the episode's funny. There wasn't enough of him, I think. Jack Columbus writes upside down. Again, another funny character. Not used as much, but yeah. They did steal the show in a way. He was funny. Bob Sacamano, who's never mentioned on screen. It's always something that I haven't quite... that you never get to meet Bob Sacamano, but it's still funny to me. Art Vandelay. Oh, again, these are minor characters that stole the show. Yeah, alright, I'm not gonna... Yeah, okay, here we go. Peterman. Definitely Peterman. The J. Peterman catalogue, the English Patient, all that storyline. That whole references to Apocalypse Now is hilarious as well. Definitely going to put Peterman in there as a key minor character that stole episodes and stole scenes. Estelle Costanza, come on. Georgie, don't eat with your hands. Why do you eat so fast? You can't even taste it. Estelle's hilarious high-pitched screeching and refusal to give away her water pick earns her. Yeah, definitely gonna go with that. There's some funny scenes with her in it, so yeah, you gotta put her in there. The bubble boy, he's got some good lines, and yeah, Moops. Yeah, well, moving on. David Putty, come on. Every time this guy's on screen, you can't tell me that he wasn't funny. With the Devils. Come on. The former mechanic. You've got a few other episodes with him as well as the mechanic of, trying to fix Jerry's car or something like that. I can't even remember. Jackie Charles. Your case is my face. I'm just saying that a lot of these minor characters, there were some that don't steal the show, but Jackie Charles' character is hilarious. I keep saying that, but come on. Yeah, you gotta give it to that. Steinburner by Larry David. Again, some good humor in that, but we'll move on. Newman. Alright, the top two here, 100%. And we'll look at the Friends characters in a second, but Newman is hilarious in terms of like the rivalry with Jerry and what he gets up to all the time. But Frank Costanza, if you had to put rankings on characters after the cast, you got to put Frank Costanza after that, I think, in terms of minor characters, because Jerry Stiller steals any scene that he's in. I'm sorry, and then it made me Jerry Stiller made me watch that show. What is it? I was going to say Gangs of New York. Can't remember what it's called, but yeah, King of Queens, because he's in it. I actually ended up watching it. So those key characters. Now, minor characters stole the show. Frank Costanza, Newman, Peterman, Putty, Jackie Charles, I think are my top there. And Estelle. I'm surprised Morty Seinfeld's not in there, but anyway. Top 10 Friends minor characters. Let's have a look what they say. Well, Janice as the number one. Oh my god. Okay, yeah, she's funny. She was actually in Seinfeld too for an episode or two. No, one episode actually. But again, once that voice and that catchphrase, I get it, it's funny, but as you keep watching the season and then she pops up every now and then, I just don't find it funny anymore. So, Janice is funny, but then, nah. Gunther, I don't mind this guy, He's got this romance and love for Rachel, which I think is pretty funny, but he doesn't really do much. And when he does, though, he does do well, I think. So, yeah. Estelle, I think I really like this character. I like her voice. Joey, yeah, the talent agent. So I do like her. And so we'll give it to that with Friends, that Estelle Leonard is a good sub-character. Mr. Heckles, I don't think he actually is used that much compared to the other ones, but he was in Seinfeld as well as Kramer, acting in the show in Seinfeld, if that makes sense. Now, what I find interesting, actually I didn't mention it, was that storylines, right? They keep saying in the other articles that Friends storylines are heaps better, etc., etc. But if anything, Seinfeld in the show ends up showing us, the audience, how that actually came about. Like it's like the show within the show, it's like aware of itself. And I think at the time that was genius writing. So yeah, sorry to get off topic. Ursula Buffet, nah, I don't like that whole subplot of her twin and all that. But whatever, moving on. Eddie, I don't mind this, by Adam Goldberg. I don't mind his character. He's actually pretty funny. So I don't mind him in this. I don't mind him in the movies that he does. The Hebrew Hammer is actually a hilarious movie with him in it. But I think, yeah, this guy actually did well. Giovanni Ribisi, this guy is actually a good actor too. He was in Gone in 60 Seconds and Private Ryan. Actually, both these guys were in Saving Private Ryan. I think Phoebe's brother, when there's an episode with him in it, I actually watch it because his demeanor and the way he carries himself is just hilarious. The way he just talks is like, yeah, well, 4 kids. Oh, I'm so happy. Nora Bing, Chandler's mother. Yeah, not much to say about her, to be honest. Paul Stevens, Bruce Willis. I think Bruce Willis was one cameo that I could go along with and laugh at. When Ross started dating one of his students, he was intimidated by her overprotective father. I like those episodes, and I'll give it that. Bruce Willis did well. When Brad Pitt was in it, though, nah, not for me. I don't think it worked well. Doug, yeah, okay. The glad handling boss was a little too corporate, a little too demonstrative for the Luke Lockheed Chandler. Yeah. Slapping his male co-workers on the behind. Yeah, this was funny. And it reminded me of more of a Seinfeld gag, if anything. So, yeah, I'll give it that. I'll give you that. Now, let's look at episodes, shall we? The best Seinfeld episodes of all time ranked. Alright, so we've got 15 from each. So far, it's not about... Well, this whole stream is about, who's winning, who's losing, whatever. At the moment, it's quite... I think Seinfeld's winning this battle so far because of some key points like acting and one-liners, and the minor characters do beat the Friends ones. Whereas Friends does win in terms of like the romance, drama, storylines, and some one-liners. But number 15, The Bubble Boy, pretty funny episode. It's memorable, and when it's on, you watch it. The Briss, hilarious, and I love the reference to The Godfather at the end. And the Moyle, the rabbi who actually does the Briss, is actually hilarious as well. So I'll give that. I'll put that in the top 14. Why not? The dinner party, the cookie. This is another funny episode where it's not based in one location, but Jerry and Elena are trying to get this cake, cinnamon babka, chocolate babka, and then you got George and Kramer who are going to go buy the wine, and then they're double parked, and you got the it's Gore-Tex, yeah, cinnamon babka, definitely put that in there. The library, yeah, not bad episode. I don't know if it'd be in the top 15 for me. The limo, I was talking about this before, 100% put this in there. It's actually hilarious. Put that in there, definitely. Chinese restaurant, surprised it's at number 10, should be higher on the list. This is a legendary early episode that it says here, and I think this is what, and I think in the making of it, they actually said that this was a key part of Seinfeld getting bigger, was this episode. The Cheever letters, again, finding out big information about Susan's dad. Why it's on the list. Warren Frost, yeah, made 5 appearances as Susan's parents. I think, didn't even think about that. They made 5 appearances as Susan's parents, but they were never as interesting as or horrific to each other as they are in this episode. Yeah. He loved me in a way you'll never understand. Anyway, moving on. The Hamptons. I was in the pool. I'm not a huge fan of that episode, so yeah, I don't know. The Busboy, again from season 2. Who left the door open? I think that's another great episode that deserves to be on this list. When George gets that busboy fired, Paquita, and then the cat gets out. Hilarious. The airport. Definitely going to put this on there. I'll definitely leave that there. It's a funny episode. The parking garage. Again, this Chinese restaurant contest, they're up there, right? Because you've been in these types of situations before, possibly. Great episode to put up there. The marine biologist. The sea was angry that day, my friends. Yeah, this deserves to be on the list. Another funny episode. What I'm noticing, the invitations where Susan dies, I wouldn't put that in the top 15 episodes, but hey, that's me. The contest, number 2. We all know what this episode is about. It is iconic Seinfeld. It is probably one of the greatest episodes. Well, it is. I think it's the number 1 episode of Seinfeld. And it, controversially, no, it beats any episode of Friends, hands down. I'm sorry. The writing, the acting, the punchlines, everything in this episode works. The subway as number 1. I like this whole kind of like 4 distinct adventures. They all do their own kind of adventures in this episode, but nah, I'm going to not agree with that. Sorry. Now, let's go through the 15 best Friends episodes. Now, I have seen all of Friends before anyone says anything like, oh, Daska, well, how do you know? You've never watched everything? I'm like, yes, I have. So, the one where no one's ready. Alright. Almost like an episode of Fox 24, this episode takes place in the span of 20 minutes, specifically 20 minutes in which Ross urging the gang to get dressed and get ready to attend a benefit. This is a funny episode because people have been in those situations where, and I'm the type of person like Ross is, where I want to be somewhere on time and no one's ready. And then you've got this with Joey where he puts on all of Chandler's clothes, which is a funny moment. So yes, it belongs there. The one where Ross got high, with a trifle, that was funny, but again, not as funnier as other ones coming up. The holiday armadillo, yes, hilarious. Yeah, I'll put that in there because, Ross trying to teach his son about Hanukkah as well, and he's just not getting it, so I'll give it that. Ross's sandwich, another good catchphrase, my sandwich, I'll give it that. Friends has got some funny moments, and the episode with Ross's sandwich was funny. The one with the cop, again, whoops, go away, pivot, yeah. Forgot about that catchphrase. So, alright, cool. The one with all the resolutions, again, another funny episode with Ross putting lotion on his pants because he can't get the leather pants off and he's stuck at that girl's house. I give it that. There is some funny ones. Unagi, another funny episode. See what's happening here, guys? Friends has got some good episodes. Bang, 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 bang. But what I'm thinking, the one where Ross is fine, L is for love. And what is life without love? No. O is for, oh wow. B is for a very normal. This is E. Okay, I'll give it that. That is a funny episode as well. Ross is tan. I'm noticing a lot of things here. A lot of these episodes are the best episodes that they've got here are with Ross. So Ross is a funny character, but it depends what type of humor you like. If you like Joey's type of humor or you like sarcastic humor like Chandler, but Ross has got some funny episodes up his sleeve. The one with the prom video, everyone loves this episode. I mean, it's okay, but again, that whole thing about them going on about her weight and about her nose, I'm going to just keep going from there. The embryos, Ross mediates and judges Jeopardy-style competition to test Rachel and Monica's knowledge of Chandler and Joey. This is pretty funny, where they, that was okay. The one where everyone finds out. Again, you could say that this episode is only in here because everyone finds out about Chandler and Monica, so I'll still put it on there. They go public, yeah. Again, this type of storyline is more evident in Friends than with Seinfeld, obviously. The one with Joey's new brain. Days of Our Lives, longtime character receives a brain transplant. Meanwhile, Ross tries to convince Monica and Chandler to let him play the bagpipes in their wedding. Moment that climaxes a celebration by Cool and the gang. Watch the bagpipes performance. Nah, I remember this. It was okay, but I don't know if I put that on the list. The one where Ross finds out. Again, the one with the proposal. These two here. The one with the proposal, that is a nice episode. Again, but again, I've said this, guys. I've said this over and over. A lot of these episodes you're looking at are... Okay, let's just count for that. Which ones are about emotions? Alright, out of these 10 episodes, there's probably one, that one there. 1, 2, 3. Out of these 10 episodes that are so-called the best, or the 15, right, that we've looked at, out of these 15 episodes, there's 3 that are trying to get the audience emotionally involved, obviously, because of the way Friends is. And I get that. That's the way Friends is. But if you look at the Seinfeld episodes, like The Contest, you could rewatch that episode over and over and it's still hilarious. I'm not saying you can't do that with Friends episodes, but there is just something about these top episodes of Seinfeld that I think an audience can relate more to. Parking garages, Chinese restaurants, funny things that happen in situational comedies. Yes, they are all it's a sitcom. They're both sitcoms. I get that. But acting, the situations that Seinfeld gets itself into, the superb writing and dialogue beats Friends. Friends wins in terms of if you want that extra storyline in terms of love and relationships and drama, then you'll enjoy Friends more. Now, you can go on the internet and type in which is more popular, etc. but in the end, you're going to get different opinions about both, right? Technically, which one was more successful? You can type it into Google and we can find out right now if you want. Let's have a look. Seinfeld versus Friends. Which was more successful? Sorry, can't type. Friends and Seinfeld were the two biggest sitcoms of the 90s, but while each had their legions of fans watching them, it was Seinfeld who won the battle back then. Across its run, Friends averaged 23.6 million viewers, contrasted to Seinfeld's 26 million. That was back then. However, what you could say is that at the moment, Friends is beating Seinfeld because of its Netflix presence, right? Now, are we looking now at who wins? Are we looking at in the past who wins? What are we looking at, people? I'm looking at simply which is the better show. Now, they're both made in Seinfeld started 89, but 90s, and Seinfeld ended in 98, whereas Friends kept going to 2004. So it does have a younger audience in today's society, obviously, because even though it's only a few years, 98 to 2004, that's 6 years. So the average age of someone watching Friends grew up recently, but if someone was like 16, 17 in 2002 and 3, obviously you're going to think that Friends is better. Whereas someone who was like 15, 16 around 1997, 98, or 95 even, is going to think Friends is better. So it's a couple of things. It's one, it's when you were born, like what era you kind of grew up in watching. Two, what was, being watched in your house at the time. Or three, you were just a fan of Friends, or a fan of Seinfeld. So it just depends on that. Summing all this up, it's been 57 minutes. We need some answers here. Well, the answers to me are as follows. We've been through the top things that Friends did better, top things that Seinfeld did better, the 15 minor characters of Friends, the 15 minor characters of Seinfeld. I think that Friends does a lot of things good, like the romantic part of it, the storylines in terms of the romance, right? Maybe even the storylines are a bit better in Friends, okay? The storylines, I give it that. The way it flows, the way everything connects, the happy ending, I get that. Characters in Friends, I'll give it to Joey and Chandler. They're funny. Ross, at times is funny, but at times is annoying, and at times he's quite, not creepy, but the way he just acts around Rachel sometimes and is obsessed with her is a bit weird, but anyway, whatever. Phoebe, I don't find funny, and the smelly cat thing is funny for a bit. Monica and Rachel are interchangeable. Sorry. Monica is probably funnier than Rachel. I think Rachel, Jennifer Aniston's character, is the weakest link out of the Friends. So there's that. Seinfeld, on the other hand, I've heard the whole thing, but Seinfeld, they're not good looking. That is the most ridiculous thing I've heard, because that just goes to show you that you don't need to... Okay, maybe they are better looking in Friends, but the dialogue, the characters, the whole show, the show itself, the way it goes about going through comedy, Seinfeld is superior. I can go through here, and if you haven't seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, have a look at that too. Have a look at the reunion they did. I can look at any of these, pick season 5, right? Open it up and go, the mango, hilarious. Puffy shirt, hilarious. Good one-liners. The glasses, hilarious. Sniffing accountant, come on, I forgot about that episode. The bris, we talked about it. The lip reader, non-fat yogurt, the barber, the masseuse, cigars going in, the conversion, the stall. The stall? I haven't got to spare a square. I can't spare a square. The dinner party. It's Gore-Tex, the marine biologist. The sea was angry that day, my friends. The pie. Yeah, that's funny. Try this pie. The stand-in, the wife. We got married. The raincoats, the fire. Oh my god, how can I forget about that? Jon Favreau's cameo in that. Now you're probably thinking, oh, Daska, you can pick any season of Friends and do that too. Okay, let's do it. Season 5 of Friends. Let's have a look if I've got the same humor of it. The one after Ross says Rachel. Yeah, okay, that was funny. The one with all the kissing. The 100th. Yeah, alright, she goes into labour. That was a good episode. Phoebe hates PBS. Pretty funny. One with the Kips. The one with the Yeti. That's, yeah, see what I mean? Ross moves in. That's a funny episode. Thanksgiving's funny episode. Again, apart from going back, but keep going on about that thing with Monica. Ross's sandwich, hilarious. Inappropriate sister, hilarious. The resolutions, funny as well. Chandler's work laugh, nah. Joey's bag, okay. Everyone finds out, not more comedy, but more like, about the storylines. The one where the girl hits Joey, I can't remember that one carefully. The one with the cop. See, I've picked season 5 on both these TV shows, and they both have killer episodes in them. The one where Rachel smokes is funny too. The one where Ross can't flirt. The one with the ball. The one with Joey's big break. Yeah, the one with Vegas. Okay, both season 5s, random seasons that I picked, have some great episodes. But looking back at them just briefly, there are more hits than misses in Seinfeld than Friends, and that's what it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen. It comes down to that. It comes down to the fact that there are more hits than misses in Seinfeld than Friends. I can go watch Friends, I can go watch Seinfeld, whatever. However, I find myself, let me just fix this. I find myself laughing more watching Friends than Seinfeld. I find myself wanting to watch an episode more in Seinfeld than Friends. I will watch Friends episodes and I'll laugh a couple of times, but I just showed you there 2 random seasons, and I can do it with probably other ones where there are more hits than misses. Now, it's difficult because if you're a Friends fan, then you're going to say, well, you know what? No, this is a very hard debate, but I'm putting it out there. It all comes down to this. Better characters in Seinfeld, better writing in Seinfeld, better situational episodes and comedy in Seinfeld, right? So there's 3 major points there, and the minor characters beat Friends. All right, so there's 4 points. Okay, the points that I've got for Friends that are better is the fact that the relationship stuff, the drama stuff, the how you can relate to certain characters and their relationships. Yes, I give it that. So the family stuff as well in Friends does win, and no, not characters. So in Friends, my favorite characters are probably Chandler and Joey, even though, yeah, Joey, I'll give it to that. Matt LeBlanc does a good job, and so does, what's his face? Anyway, so, look guys, in the end, I just think they're my points why Seinfeld wins. I hope you've enjoyed this extremely long live discussion. I was going to make this into a video, but I thought, you know what, let's not have a live discussion and see who actually is going to log in and have a look. And I'll be on here so you guys can listen and watch another time. So, hope you enjoyed this, guys. Please leave a like in the comments. Oh, please leave a like.